Color is all around you, in the world around you, and it's part of your everyday life. But what if all color just disappeared? You couldn't see any color. How would your life be? And how would it feel? Well, color is all around us, and if it disappeared, it would really change all of our lives. But how do our eyes really see the colors that are all around us in the world? And how does that science work? How do our eyes and brain coordinate? And how does that light go into our eyes and tell our brain, wait, that thing is green? How does that work? Well, in this episode, I want to take you on a deep dive into the science of vision and how all of this stuff works and how we're able to see the colors in our world. Let's go. To understand how we're able to see all these colors in the world, first we have to take a deep dive into light. Well, light is all around us, and our main source of light on Earth is the sun, but it can also be like LED lights and the lights in our home. But what's really important is that white light, just plain white light, is actually made of the different colors of the rainbow. I know it sounds crazy, right? But that's what's called the visible light spectrum. The visible light spectrum is all of the colors that we're able to see. And if you just take regular white light and we put it through a prism or something that splits that light up, it'll be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, the colors of the rainbow. And that's because the white light is actually made up all of these colors. And when these colors are combined, it creates white. And well, how we're able to see it is because of wavelengths. You see the visible light spectrum, which are all these different colors. All these colors have different wavelengths. Remember, light travels in waves, so these waves are slightly different. And what our eyes are able to do is pick up all these different wavelengths, and we're able to distinguish them into different colors. Now, we make all the colors in our world that we see today with just these few colors that are in the visible light spectrum. So when we see it, when we're seeing just regular white light, we're actually seeing all the colors of the rainbow at once. I know it's really cool, right? Now we have to take a deep dive into how we're able to see these. So, when something is a color, let's say a box is green, all right? So this green box, what it's doing is it's only reflecting the green part of the visible light spectrum. It's absorbing all the other colors, but it's only reflecting that green. And when that green is reflected off of that box, because that's the wavelength of it, what we're able to see in our eyes is the green box. That is how these different objects have colors. Now, what goes on inside of our eyes and inside of our brain that tells us what color something is? Well, that's where things get interesting. You see, in your eyes, there are cells called rod and cone cells. These cells are basically the things that help you see. They're able to take in light and these different wavelengths. And then they send all this information to your visual cortex, a part in your brain that processes all these images that you see. And remember, you just see every day in your lives, but what this specialty does is it's able to combine those images and those wavelengths of the objects, and what you see is the color. It's all thanks to these rod and cone cells, and they're able to sense all of these different colors that are all around us, send it to our brain, and our brain tells us what color it is. There is so much science going on behind all of things that we see and all the color that we see. Now that we know how our eyes are able to see these different things in the visible light spectrum and all of the things that goes on in our eyes and the brain, how it processes it, now it's time to do a fun science experiment that is coming right up. But before we do that, I just want to remind you to subscribe to this podcast and this YouTube channel. And don't forget to share it too. And don't forget to leave a like on this video. It really encourages me, and you'll be up to date on all the new episodes if you subscribe. Thank you so much. And now, let's get on with the fun science experiment that we are gonna do together. Let's go. Okay, now let's get on with the science experiment you've been waiting for. It's called Separate the Colors Science Experiment. Let's go. Feel free to pause the video to do the steps. Alright, so first you'll need to gather the materials. You'll need markers, a cup of water, paper towels, and scissors. Now take the paper towels and cut them into small strips. These strips have to be about a finger wide, and you can cut as many strips as you want. Make sure they're equal to the amount of markers you have. Next, color a line on the paper towel with the markers. Make sure the line is in the middle of the strip. Now dip the strip inside the water. Make sure the ink does not touch the water. Now watch the science happen. You can see that the water starts to creep up the paper towel, and as it does that, it's dispersing the ink. Now watch what happens as we do this even more. Remember, the clips that you're seeing are sped up, so this might take a little bit of time for you to do it. But once you see it, you will be mind blown. You can see that as the water starts to creep up, something happens. The ink starts dispersing, and for some reason, it's changing color. How does that happen? Think about that. The water climbs up the paper towel, dispersing the ink. You will notice it changes color as it gets to the top. This shows the individual colors that make up the marker. You're basically seeing a color recipe for that marker. This is what's called as chromatography, and you're basically breaking up all the different colors in the marker. It's so cool, right? You can basically see the recipe for the marker. Okay, now we know this experiment. Why don't you try it out and send me your results by going to spectacularsci.com/contact and emailing me some pictures. I'd love to see them. Also, try this experiment out with different brands of markers and see how your favorite markers are made and what colors go into them. It's a really cool activity, and I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, let's review what we learned in this episode. In this episode, we learned that color is all around us, and the reason we're able to see colors is because of the visible light spectrum. White light is made of all these different colors, and when this white light gets on something, and let's say we have a red box, when that red box, all the red light from that visible light spectrum and from that white light is reflected into our eyes, but all the other colors are absorbed. That makes all the rod and cone cells in our eyes detect the color wavelengths, and our brain to process it, and to tell us it is red. That is how we're able to see everything around us. We also did a really fun experiment that you can rewind to check out, and that we did together. It's a very good example of chromatography, and it is a really fun color experiment. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Spectacular Science. Spectacular Science produced and hosted by me, Akshay Jiraman. Our theme song and additional music are by Charan Ramachandran. Please visit my podcast website, spectacularsci.com, to find interactive activities, articles, and blog posts. That's spectacularsci.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel wherever you're listening right now. It really encourages me, and you'll be up to date on all the new episodes. Subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. Thank you so much. This is the final episode of Season 6. We'll be back with a brand new episodes and Season 7 on March 26th, 2024. Get ready for the brand new season with lots of new episodes. Alright, we'll see you then, and in the meanwhile, keep thinking about science.